Yo, welcome everyone. Last Micro Frontends Meetup of the year. I'm your host, Florian Rappel, and in this episode, we'll have, I think, a quite nice selection of topics. But you know the drill already. If you're not here for the first time, we need to go over some bureaucratic stuff first. So, welcome everyone again. Hi, Omar. I hope you're doing fine. Great. Let's just go right into all the bureaucratic stuff that we need to cover. So first of all, this session is being recorded, and as you see, it's being made available on YouTube. Now, the URL you currently have is also the URL that you can use later on. So the recording will stay on YouTube. If you need to leave earlier, if you want to rewind later on or share with your friends, do so. The YouTube URL will not change. Also, we will post this URL, and so other people might have a look at this at the session. And the chat is being recorded as well. So therefore, with your activity in the chat, keep in mind it's potentially here to stay. But of course, feel encouraged to ask your questions and point out certain things where you might want to see more, things that can be improved also maybe, or general questions. Share your experience, but always, of course, remember to be kind and gentle. We have a code of conduct. We never had to, let's say, fall back to it or be restrictive to someone, and I don't think we will ever need to be. Anyway, feel comfortable in the chat. But no personal attacks or harassments in there. Now, we are currently in the phase of planning what we do next year. If we, again, like last year, make a little break and then come back with maybe a little bit of a format change. At the moment, I think it looks good that we will keep doing these meetups then in January and so on. So we will have next year fully planned, but we want to make some tweaks to the show. As you might have already seen, this year was fairly different to last year. So last year we had always two guests essentially for every episode. And then we talked about the topic that the guest brought. And this was, I think, quite nice. So this year we tried something different. We are a little bit more, let's say, focused now on live coding and on showing something. And of course, what would be very interesting for us is how you like it. And so what we definitely plan is to mix things next year. And for this, of course, we invite you again to be a guest in the show. So anyone who has something to share in the space of Micro Frontends, please talk to me or just go to the Sessionize. It's at the moment closed, but I will reopen the Sessionize call for papers soon again. And I will share also more information about our plans for next year's show. But yeah, I'm quite optimistic that we will get a good format out there. Again, at the moment, it's your chance to influence what we do. So if you already know, please invite this person, or please show us how to develop with this or that, and we can do that, right? And just let us know your thoughts, and we will tailor the show to your liking, of course. Final advertisement is the Micro Frontends Discovery Service. We still have a QR code in here. If you can't manage now to I don't know, scan it, don't worry about it. You can rewind as said. If you want to have a free trial of the pro version of it, you can always use it with this code. That's all I have to say here. The Pyro Feed Service is a Micro Frontends Discovery Service that allows you to set up really a scalable infrastructure in a couple of seconds, and then, of course, just work with it for a whole decade, I would say. So quite a cool thing. I guess we will see something of it later on, or in the context of one of the things that we will go into. So with that being said, let me already maybe open VS Code, and I think we will go right into, demos and a little bit more. So what is the agenda for today? As usual, we don't have a PowerPoint presentation here, so no worries. We will do everything live, and we will code a little bit, I guess, and also show a couple of things. So today there will be a mix because it's the end of the year, right? So reflect a little bit what has happened in the micro frontend space. And we will start with Modi Federation because, as you might know, Modi Federation version 2 has been released this year. And also they made some fairly good progress, of course, regarding one of, let's say, the problems with Modi Federation is that, of course, it was very bound to Webpack. And even though that was how they carried it into the community, it is, of course, the thing that they also try to improve and get better. And our spec, of course, was fairly easy because it is essentially Webpack, just with a little bit of a different foundation. So that was already done. And this year also community stepped in, and our dear friend Giorgio Boa made a nice release together with some other folks, and they now have integration in Vite. And we had that before, and we will look at that as a first example that I already prepared for today. There we still have the old version. We will together just try to use the new version. So it will be fairly interesting. I didn't do anything here to make this experience quite unique and authentic. Now, the next thing we will look at is native federation. In particular, we will see how native federation really allows us to just write micro frontends without having to worry about any of the things that, for instance, Modi Federation requires you to think about. Tooling like, does my bundler support it? You don't need to worry about that with native federation because, well, for the one hand, they of course have some adapters, but on this other hand, you don't even need a bundler, and you could write micro frontends without any bundler, any tooling at all, and that is quite nice. And we will see that, and we will see it especially in combination with server-side rendering, which is something that they also cracked. But we will see it in context of Picard. It was already possible this year, since it's quite a while, and it's very exciting, to be honest. So that's this, but it continues from here. We also have a Picard.js, of course, where we look at how you can leverage this and how easy it is to get an application micro frontend capable. And finally, we will look at how to just deploy now something on a live application and have it snowing on a website that you can also reach, I guess. But yeah, so this is the agenda that we have, and I would say you can of course always post in the chat if you want to see something, if we should look into something, but I would say let's start with the first bullet point. If you are here for the raffle, yeah, we have 2 things to give away. I will come to them also later, but just that you know. So one is we have a book out of Micro Frontends 2nd edition hardcover that we will raffle out. So I guess most costs here will be the delivery to anywhere in the world. So let's see. I hope there will be something more local, but yeah, it should be still doable. And the second thing is that we also have the ebook for Michael Gare's Micro Frontends in Action. So Michael Gare's also a great guy. You should know him that because he's the person behind the microfrontends.org website. And he has done a lot. What he has done, for instance, and that's a nice transition point, he has come up this year with a new kind of a playground for micro frontends called the Tractor Store version 2. Now, the Tractor Store version 2 allows you to write something that looks like this, for instance. This is the example we'll look at in a second, just locally. So it's the classic Tractor Store just pimped up, right? It's quite exciting because, yeah, he brought in some nice gimmicks. So there is a script that you can just embed. And if you follow, let's say, standard guidelines, then this script will do something funny. It will highlight now the boundaries of your components, so to speak, that have come from the micro frontend. So here you see the page was given by the Explore micro frontend. This header component comes from the Explore micro frontend, but within the header, we have also something from the Checkout micro frontend, and so on and so forth. So quite nice, especially that you now have this page, but it's not only this, it's that you have other pages as well, which is something that the original Tractor Store did not have. And now these other pages, of course, can come from other teams, like this page comes from the Checkout micro frontend. It still uses now components that have been given in from, for instance, our Explore micro frontend. And this way, of course, you get an experience that might already resemble very, very much what you are actually aiming to do. And the best thing about this is that you can, of course, develop this example in various fashions. So here, as we can see, it is module federation. It is actually a single page application, but it doesn't need to be. You can also just make it a server-side rendered application, or you can make it a hybrid, right? You can do whatever you like to do. And so whenever you have a kind of application in mind, this could be something that you develop first, because all the assets and components, they are there, they are known, and it will help you very easily to see if your ideas can be, let's say, implemented on the scale that you like. All right. And so, in my opinion, very nice, and you could phrase it as he does, like the to-do list for Micro Frontends, right? Great, cool. So what we can now do, what we can start with, is that we, just have a brief look at the code, run it then, and then, of course, we try to improve it, because this code, I mean, I've written it shortly after the Micro Frontends conference, so it's now half a year old. And it was, of course, written with the methods that we had back then, let's say. So let's, let's maybe first try to run it, because if that doesn't work, then we are screwed anyway, right? So I just use this run shell script, and I think everything should be set up already. And what it does is it just runs concurrently, and concurrently will then go into all these different folders and run them, right? So that at runtime, all these little servers are available. So each one is just creating its own web server, and they are then composed all in our app shell, which is rather lightweight, so it doesn't do much, right? It has the HTML, but that's about it. Otherwise, it just, starts scaffolding the app. It only has a loader frame, and then it goes into the router. What does the router do? Well, it only embeds now the components which are scattered out through our Micro Frontends. So that's why you see here things like explore, checkout, and decide. And that's it, right? So we then reference all these pages that come from the different Micro Frontends. As you know me, I'm not a big fan of this pattern. I would love to see this more, let's say, composable and distributed. But yeah, it's how it's often done. One funny thing is this uses now module federation version 2, and in this way we already prepared to make it more loosely coupled. Why is that? Well, we don't have fixed imports. We now use these helper functions. Frankly, they shouldn't be in window, but you get the point. And this thing that we then added to window, we added it that everyone can just use it, right? Because part of our global document object model has the get component function, which works against the API from module federation version 2. So how does that look like? You see that in the remotes here. So what you can see is we get the module federation /enhanced/runtime module in, which gives us methods like register remotes and load remotes. So register remotes we can use to actually register the things that come from somewhere. So this is quite cool, because now we could receive the response, for instance, from a Micro Frontend discovery service, right? And then we could just embed this. And we are not constrained to whatever is now written and hard-coded in our Webpack config, which isn't how it should be, to be honest, because, well, this, we have a build time already, the decision done, and actually this decision what should enter should be done at runtime, otherwise it's not really distributed, right? Anyway, so we bring in those things, and the specific URL, in this case, again, no discovery service, so we are still hard coding that. We are bringing in from environment variables. They are in the RS config, so these URLs are computed. All right. We give them good names like decide, checkout, and explore, and that's about it. So now our remotes are registered. Great. Now the second step is we wanted also to enable this get component helper. And what it actually does is it takes an ID, as we've seen, like explore /something, and then it takes this ID and puts it forward to the load remote function from module federation. Now this thing will try to resolve it, which might work or might not work. And in there we have a little bit of a magic, which is only required because Here we are not using the latest version of the Vite integration. We are using something else. We will see in a second or hopefully this will be solved with the newer version that they have. So we will see that in a second if it really resolves this, and we can make this a little bit more beautiful, this line here. In any case, we wrap this already because this would just give us a promise, right? And not really a component. So we wrap it in a React lazy call. Now, whatever we get back, we assume it's a React component, and we make out of this promise a React component again, with a lazy loading React component. So this way, anyone who now wants to grab a component from some Micro Frontend can just use the get component helper, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. So it's quite nice. And let's say this is part of our mini framework that we created for this example. So far, so good. Let's try to run it. Yes. Okay, so everything starts. It looks good. It looks good. I think it should be fine. We get a little bit of all these Webpack or SPAC dev servers. So everything should be up and running. We have a lot of different ports. And I think, so Explorer is at 6001, 6003, and our app is, I think, at, let's see, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I don't see it. 6001, 6002. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's there, it's up and running. And it's running as it should, right? So we can click through it. We could now hopefully add this to the basket and also choose a store, enter name, place an order, and we get confetti, and our application works as it should. Great. So this application is working. It's now local. It's running. All the Micro Frontends are running. Wonderful. Now, as mentioned, this year we got something new, and so it should be possible to improve this, because what we are doing here is, and that's what it makes this then a little bit more exciting than just new tractor store and Module Federation version 2. Now, what makes it exciting is that we're using different bundlers. So, for instance, the Explore Micro Frontend, this is using Module Federation version 2 with Webpack. Great. The Decide Micro Frontend is using Vite, and Vite doesn't, at least with the plugin that we are using here, and we will try to change this in a second, doesn't use Module Federation version 2. It's still version 1. So we want to change this, I guess. Then we have our SPAC, right? This is also version 2. It's nice. And our app, well, is our SPAC. And here also version 2 of Module Federation. So 2 times our SPAC, 1 time Webpack, 1 time Vite for these 4, let's call it code bases or libraries or applications or projects. So 4 projects, 3 systems that have been used. Now, as said, Decide was using something older, and personally, I wasn't a big fan of this thing here, the Origin.js Vite plugin federation. But honestly, it was also the best choice that we had so far. So kind of a solution to a problem that shouldn't exist in the first place. And now, I mean, I need to know, is this the right name? Let's see. It looks right so far, right? So let's see. It's Module Federation /Vite. So they now have a new plugin out. We can have a look at the website for a second. Of course, when we enter it, the first hit we get is the old plugin, as it should be, right? But we also have here Vite plugin for Module Federation, and this is the new one from Giorgio Boa. Then you know you're right here. All right, now Vite Remote, Vite Host, RS Remote, Webpack Remote, that should all now work. So really good. And what we basically need to do, we import now Federation from this thing. So let's try this out. We are here, and we should maybe first install it. So let's get into the Decide one, and let's just run npmi. All right, so let me replace this line. So now we have federation. It looks, by the way, like beforehand. This is already good. So maybe we don't need to change anything, right? That would be the best case. Now let's see. We have name, file name, exposes, remotes, shared. That looks fairly standard. So name, file name, exposes, shared. Hey, if that would just work, that would be really great. I don't see anything else that we need to change at this point in time. But I guess it could be that we have a problem in host application. Let's just find out. We have a remote here, full remote. So let's see if we can just now use the host as we want to. If we could, that would be quite awesome. So let's see. I go back and I press run again. So if that already works, we will be able to find out if we see any errors. That looks good so far. I don't see anything. Our server started. Everything looks really nice. So if it's too good to be true, it's usually not true. So let's open our dev tools here and let's try to reload it. We saw that everything comes in, so this is good. And yeah, we can also open the boundaries. Go in here. Okay, but now this thing here would be from Vite, and apparently it doesn't just work. So what's going wrong here? Honestly, I don't know, because it's the first time I play with this plugin, but it seems like it's not just, a direct drop-in. But one thing is, of course, true. We have this little magic thing in between, and it could be that we need to define our remotes a little bit differently. So let's have a look again. We are using, for the decider one, the Vite. So it could be that we didn't really specify that well. Previously, it had assets/remote entry.js. So that was the behavior of the origin.js micro frontend. And now we see that this does generate a remote entry directly in the dist folder. So much better, much more what you would expect. So honestly, this change should be done here. Now, I don't think our spec just detects a change in its config. So we will unfortunately need to restart the whole thing. Let's try this. And that should be then the right URL. But even with the right URL, we don't know yet, does it all just work? So let's see. We start here again. Everything looks awesome. We go into the details. And again, it doesn't work. But why? It's still looking for assets/remote entry.js. I thought we changed this. Maybe I forgot to... no, that doesn't look correct to me. Okay. I have the logic for the local one down here. So that was actually my bad. That should have been written a little bit better. So sorry, let's try it again, but that just brings the tension up, right? And finally, let's see this again. Let's drill into the details, and it just works, which is great. So actually, yes, I needed to change the path, granted, but the path wasn't good as it was before in any way. So I now like that much better, that it just puts it into the root of the dist folder. So therefore, much better. Already a great improvement. Now, finally, the one question that, of course, I have is, could I now change the behavior of the get component? Because right now, I need to check if there's a default exported. And then if it is, then I just take the export. Otherwise, I put it into that. I think they now should all have the same format. And hopefully, that should just be the export with the default. So I will now try to just remove this. Now, either nothing works or everything keeps on working. Let's see what the behavior is. Okay, sorry for that. I don't have... Oh, but it looks already good that this is working. And this is also just working. So now the behavior also is matching what we see on Webpack and RSpec, and I don't need this magic line anymore, which I wanted to remove anyway. So in my opinion, quite great. Let's format this. It's prettier, looks already much prettier than beforehand, right? And I would say this is great. I love it, and it improved the situation here quite a bit. And so they made some great progress, and I would say from just trying it out in the simple example, this is a great leap forward, because beforehand you had just the decision between a broken version 2 plugin and an outdated and broken in some way version 1 plugin. But now we have something that already fulfills version 2, is really close to what we get as output from Webpack and RSpec. So we're in a quite nice state here. And with that, I would conclude the part on module federation version 2. So what we saw is that, they are now in parity or closer to it at least, with having more bundlers. I'm not going to ES build because this thing is still broken to, very much broken. But at some point there will be also ES build. I'm quite sure about that. And so the story overall looks quite good. With Vite and RS/Webpack, we have the biggest bundlers out there covered. And with Module Federation version 2, it's easier than before and to build loosely coupled experiences, because you can now grab into these APIs like the load remote and just tell the system what micro frontends are there. So quite great. All right, since I don't see any questions in the chat, and hi Johannes, nice to have you on board. Let's have maybe a raffle let's start with the art of micro frontends. So hope you guys are all ready, and we do the following. I think I should be capable of bringing that over here. Cool. So now let's maybe make this full screen. You got a link. I will also copy it over into the chat. And if you want to, let's say, join, then just scan the QR code, follow the link, and you should be. We have one. So right now there's a 100% chance that you win it. All right. So let's give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Well, let's say 1 more minute should be more than enough. Nice. So whoever wins, please contact me either on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Blue Sky afterwards, or also in the Pyro community chat on Discord. You can also contact me that we get the shipping handled, right? Anyway, so let's maybe give it 20 more seconds, or come on in, guys. Yeah, go for it. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, you made it. Awesome. Cool. So may the luck be in your favor. Yeah, let's play. Okay. The first one, I think, to join, XX. So please, get in touch with me, that we can exchange details, and that you can read this, hopefully over the Christmas or New Year, let's say, time. I don't know if you're celebrating Christmas or not, if you're having vacation planned or not, but it might be something for the new year then. So congratulations from me. And for everyone else, we will have a second raffle soon. All right, now let's continue. Second topic I want to talk about is briefly Picard. Who doesn't know Picard? Picard.js is an orchestrator. So it's a new project that we initiated. We are currently still in the phase of figuring some things out. So it's very early beta. We want it to be much further than we currently are. But it's a matter also of aligning, because Picard.js is the basis of the next version of Pyro. So yeah, we don't want to make a mistake here. For this, we made a little bit of a pause, right? And also to talk to some of our customers who also are interested in using it or who are already exploring things with it. And so we wanted to make everything, sure that everything is all right. But that being said, right, I mean, the documentation, the page is there, and you can already do a lot of things with it. I don't think that much of what you can do today will change drastically. So, yeah. In either way, what I want to show you using Picard.js is a small demo that you might have seen already. And this is specifically also the Tractor Store version 2 that we just saw with Module Federation. Same thing, right? And like beforehand, I can run this, but the way that I run it is a little bit different, because I just run an HTTP server here. And we get it on port 8080. So let me try to go there, 8080. Okay, that doesn't look too good. So maybe I promised too much. I'm sorry. But usually the problem sits in front of the computer. So let me see. Well, actually, it should just work, right? Why does it try to load something that's not there? Great. No, it looks good, honestly. Not sure. Why doesn't that work? I may have promised too much or too little. Let's see. Okay, it works here. I don't know why there might be some problem with caching. I don't know, but it works here, so at least something. Okay, I will need to have a look at that later. But yeah, I mean, the application itself is not so interesting, because it's the same thing that we just saw, right? And you can, of course, enable these boundaries again and see that they are working. So same thing that we just saw. Now, why is it then different? So the thing is that we don't need now a bundler for our application. As a matter of fact, I only need this HTML here, which I also would have, of course, required for the other example, because these things like the font faces, etc., I need to declare anyway, right? Now, all the thing where the magic comes in is that I have a script that I reference here from unpackage. So I get the next version of Picard.js in. And that's it. I tell it also that there is a feed already. So I'm not, let's say, needing to tell it now in form of, for instance, these remote definitions where I work against some API. I tell it just with this attribute that there's a feed. And it looks like this. So I have 3 micro frontends: checkout, decide, and explore. And their URLs are here just relative. They could be also, of course, full URLs. Here it's just relative paths, or actually absolute paths. And they are leading to micro frontends, checkout, remote entry, JSON. Now, this remote entry JSON reminds you a bit maybe on remote entry JS from Module Federation. So these are all native federation scripts, so-called manifests of native federation. So what does a manifest of native federation look like? It looks, for instance, like this. It is a JSON where the name of a micro frontend, the shared dependencies that it uses and exposes, of course, are declared in there, and the exposed components are remarked with a component name and an file name where the component is located. In the future, there might be a little bit more in there. There are currently discussions with the native federation team. And so it could be that you could extend this format a little bit, and this information could be then used by an orchestrator, such as your own framework or Picard or Pyro, for instance, and then decisions could be made how to treat such a component. For instance, what if you have two components with the same name, but there's set of rules maybe associated with it, or maybe some other qualifiers. Maybe you want one for the front end and one for the back end, and you could do maybe something like this. But as it is, as of today, if you have something like front end or back end, you would need to have some convention. And here we already use some conventions. If you look at the keys, some of these keys have a page column in there, and that's a very special convention now used from Picard.js because it also has a routing engine. And if it sees something with this special convention in there, it knows that it's actually a path. And this is a path for /checkout/card or /checkout/checkout. Strange URL, but it is like that. You could, of course, also have, let's say, more complicated things. Like here, for instance, you have an attribute in there, which is optional. So you have a last segment, which you say this category is a parameter, but it's actually optional. And so this thing will also be handled by the router that's in Picard.js. Now, this being said, it's a standard native federation manifest file. Right. Now, all we need is that this list, the path that we specify here is, of course, valid. So there must be something under this category page, yes. But how we get to that, that's actually, well, we don't care. Here, for instance, how are we doing that? That's a custom build script. You're not seeing here some adapter from native federation. So the real key point is that you don't need these adapters. You don't need a bundler at all. Here, of course, we're using ESBuild. But how you use it is up to you. We've written already remote entry JSON, and we just say we have these entry points, which are, by the way, our exposed components or assets like the stars here. But that's about it. So I wrote the remote entry JSON by hand. Could be also generated if you want to. And then I have now the tooling set up like I want it to be, right? I'm not reliant on anything, and this is quite powerful in my opinion. The only thing that's, of course, mandatory is that the format is an ESM at the end of the day. Also, you might think about externals, right? So for instance, here we are saying we have something like preact or preact hooks. And so if preact is being used in a category page, we usually get that, we see that. So here we see that preact is just imported. But it's not, this is not a local path. Now this just says React import preact. Now it's the job of native federation to actually be able to resolve preact. And of course, native federation will be able to do that because we have specified if preact isn't loaded yet, where it can find it and make it available. So it knows that there's a package, an import named preact, and it knows that it can get it from ESMSH. But that's the other beauty of it. I could now, of course, extend my setup to have this preact also done locally, but I don't need to. I can also just write in here, instead of an out file name, an out URL in general, and it will just work. So really great. Native Federation works great for such things, and it just enables you to do everything based on web standards, only with these few constraints like, you need the manifest, for instance, to tell it some things. But that being said, it's great, and you can insert then, like Picard does, some conventions and have then also other scenarios covered that weren't really well coverable beforehand. Like, for instance, that you have implicit routing, so no one tells Picard.js how the routing is to be done in code. It's all done just by knowing, well, this component here, the car page, that's, by the way, responsible for this page. And so Picard just knows that. Now, the only thing we need to know from Picard's point of view is, of course, what micro frontends should be here. So here we tell it these three are. And the second thing is, well, what to do with it. And for this, we use the router, right? So the router starts on the slash on the home page, and it shows us a loader beforehand, which is this template, if there is nothing loaded yet and we are currently in the process of loading. And we can see that, by the way, when you go to it. Well, I guess I still have to go here. Let me just... You saw it maybe spinning for a fraction of a second, so let's try this again. Okay, now my server is broken. Haha, great, we broke it. I'm not sure, not found. Oh, I stopped it already, maybe. Or it's strange. So I don't know why it just loaded beforehand. Okay, but you see it's there for a split second. You see the loading spinner, and yeah, that's the template that Picard loads in the beginning, because it sees that. And from that point on, of course, all the micro frontends have flown in, and we can just go ahead and have our application working as it should, which is quite great, right? So everything's very smooth, and things like the confetti, you can just use them. They are also just loaded on demand, essentially. So the confetti here, for instance, let me just add something. We add it to the basket. Let's check out. You see that more things are flying in. Now the checkout.js was flying in, so all these things are lazily loaded, and choosing a store. Now I choose this one. Okay, it was loading an image, but now we should see that, for instance, the confetti dependency, the thanks.js was loaded, and now we got from CDN deliver JS, we got the canvas confetti here. So quite great, because it loads dependencies only when you need them, of course, and this is what you want in the end. And again, it gets it maybe already from some CDN, so it's as fast as you wish for it. If you have these URLs, they are then really stable. So in my opinion, this is really great, and that's what you want to have. All right, so that's the current state here in Picard. You can use this thing, and it just works great with Modi Federation, with pilots, with native federation, with plain system.js things. So it's across all different formats, and it just solves this problem quite elegantly. And you can even make an, let's say, old PHP application or something else that generates HTML micro frontend ready on the client side. Now, if you want to go to the server side, this would be the second example before we do the second raffle. We can have a look at the SSR demo. So let's try to run this. I hope that this time, I think I can just do npm start here. Yeah, let's try this. Let's hope that my Chrome works again. What was I think it was the 1991. Was it? Yes. Okay. So this is how the Tractor version 1 demo looked like. Maybe we should do this also with version 2, as server-side rendering and version 2. I think it is also possible, just a little bit more effort. But there you see, it's quite a difference, right? Visually from the first one, Tractor Store version 1 to the second one. Nevertheless, so here we have now this whole thing being server-side rendered. How do I know that it's server-side rendered? Well, there are certain aspects that I can try. The first is, what if I just go in here and I disable JavaScript? Now I did that, I refresh, and do you see? It's still loading. I still get everything. But then you might say, well, we added client-side interactivity. No, all these links are still fully functional. What happens if I press a buy button? Well, it just increments, right? It's a form that's being sent, so standard. So we click here, it's a form being sent. It then updates a state which is associated with the session, and then it returns rendered HTML again, right? And so in the end, what we see is an updated page with now 5 items. And I can still click around. What I can, of course, also do is I can enable JavaScript again. I can refresh, and I still have, because it's on the server, stored the 6 items. So quite nice, and everything's rendered here on the server. Now, of course, I told you this is not only a demo what Picard can do, but this already shows that native federation can be used on the server quite nicely. So what do we have here? We have now not just a simple HTML, we have already a server, right? We have this index.js here, and it's using the Node version of Picard.js. And we tell it we don't have it now stored in some JSON. We could do that as well, right? but we have it already in our code that we have 3 micro frontends, right? We have a red one, a blue one, and a green one, and they're sitting on different ports. Actually, they're all sitting on the same one in this case, but they could all come, of course, from different servers as well. And these for JSON. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I need to look my dist folder. Oh shit. In my public folder, there are the microphones. So this is all my assets that I'm loading, and here the blue microphone, right? Again, what you can see, native federation manifest, right? It just gets React now as an ESM from ESM-SH. And it exposes basket info and buy button, for instance. And the same is true for the other two, also uses React, but exposes, of course, different components. We have a products and we have recommendations. And that's it. Now, how we're using that, we are actually only using the red microphone in our application. So let's have a look here. So we're doing a lot of things. Most of them deal with our session and taking, let's say, accepting requests that come in. But what we want to have at the end of the day is a layout. Now here we are just using a simple string. Could also be done in React, by the way, this layout. But then React is only used to generate a string anyway. And what we use here is a Py component, so a web component in this HTML. And we tell it that the framework is React for it, so it knows how to interpret it. Actually, we tell it what React means in that way, in that context. We do that in the server, and we tell it the source is red. We also provided some data, which is just, well, the argument, what is, which kind of vendor are we looking at, Porsche or Event or and so on. So what kind of tractor should it show? And that's it. We can actually inspect this Py component in our browser. It's still running, so let's do that. Make this a little bit larger. I hope you can see it. And if I just inspect, I can see that we got this Py component and it has the name products. It has source red. Yes, those things we gave it. But the data, as we can see, we see that it passes on account and the stock keeping unit, Porsche. So it gives in all these properties. And now these are all passed in to whoever is responsible for rendering this page, and we know it's the red micro frontend. So in our code, this is in red, and this is in products.jsx. At the end of the day, that's just this product page, and as you can see, it accepts SKU and count. And so with these two information, it can render something. We server-side render, of course, this thing, but it then again uses Py components, and here again, Picard steps in, and Picard renders these things. So quite nice. The thing that I like the most about Picard is that it's from the beginning loosely coupled, and it doesn't force you to go into Picard. So you could write this component, it would always work without having Picard, any Picard reference whatsoever, because these web components, if they are not, let's say, set, and if the behavior is not there, will they just remain empty and not existing, so to speak. So they will never hurt you, but you can then therefore always mark certain spots that you expect, if some other microphone is available, to put something in there. And this is quite powerful in my opinion. So great. So this is how it works. And as you can see, these buttons, they come, for instance, from our blue microphone. So here, if your basket info, it's from blue, and it passes again on the SKU and the count, and we receive it there and we work with it. So really awesome, everything done again on the server, and there's no need to work for it. Here you don't find any special convention or notation. The only thing that needs to keep in mind is how to compute these URLs, that they are good URLs. And what you need to do is that you need to work against the import meter URL. So this is a little bit like the old dir __ dir name or __ file name previously in Node.js. You do the same, but this now works on the client and on the server, which is quite great. And you get always then the URL of the script that you're currently running from this. So this is actually something you couldn't do beforehand in the browser. I mean, you could access maybe the current script and then the source value for it. But what if that already was then was not imported as a script? Or what if the script already ran because it only worked right after it started to being evaluated and not later, right? So there are a lot of things why this is now a real improvement and why you don't need a hack anymore to get the URL of your currently running script. So quite great. Cool. So here we get our module, and relative to this module, we get paths now, for instance, to our resources or other things that we are interested in. Nice. Cool. And as you can see, that just works. It works because our server is using Picard, and our server tells it what it should do. For instance, with React, it has a React converter, so it doesn't do much, just stringifies the thing, I think, right? So it just calls render to string from react.com/server. That's it. There's no magic here. And finally, one thing that you really need to take into consideration is, why does it just work on the server? Well, there's one little trick. This is really important. And in order to load ES modules dynamically from URLs in Node.js, this is one of the ways you can do it. There's another way, but you can use the experimental VM modules, because this allows you to just tell Node.js, hey, we can now create virtual modules that are not on disk and just place them as a remote content. And that's quite powerful. It's still called experimental. There's nothing that's lasting more than an experimental flag in Node.js, because this experimental flag is, I think, there since almost 10 years. It should be. I think it came in 2015 or 2016. So it's still working really great. And I hope that at some point in time, it just becomes the standard and you can always do it. But yeah, up to some degree, I think it's also nice to be behind a flag, because it's a really powerful thing. You don't want to allow this maybe to any kind of a third-party dependency that you can also just remote load any code. But here it's a little bit of a different story, right? We want to remote load because it's a microphone solution. Right, so it does that, and that concludes Picard.js. Now, before we go into the last thing, let's do one more raffle, I would say. Let me open the Grout party again. And I think I can just create a new one. And I can make an easy raffle here and just start a raffle. All right. Cool. So I copy the link, make this full screen, and I bring it over. I hope you're still there and that luck is this time on your side. If you, by any chance, win twice, yeah, I mean, then you're really good, right? But what we, of course, hope is that this time someone else is lucky. Yeah. Last time we had XX, and again, please contact me. LinkedIn is one possibility, but anything will work, right? I have you on the radar. So if you come back with me, you say I'm XX on YouTube, and then we can get along here. XX is in again. Yeah, nice. Let's maybe. Ashko, go for it. Andrew, welcome. So again, prize for this round, I can't. Well, I actually can. It takes me a second to do so. Can actually show the book because I have it also as a hardcover somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. So we can show it. This is how it looks like. Micro Frontends in action. This is how the hardcover looks like. You get the ebook version of it. But the ebook version is better in a way because it has the graphics in color and they really rock. So Michael Gears really did a great job on the graphics. All right, so I press start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, all in, 1. Let's play. And the winner is Jason. Awesome. Congrats, man. And just contact me again, any channel you like, LinkedIn or Discord, Twitter, Blue Sky. I'm all of them. Awesome. Great. Congrats. And let's get out of the screen. Leave the game. I want to leave it. Come on. All right. Cool. Last one I want to do today is I want to let it snow. So what I want to show you, we can of course use Firefox maybe again. We have our Micro Frontend discovery service called the Pirate Cloud feed service. And it looks a little bit like that. It's only, of course, my view. You will get a little bit less feeds and all that. But this is the portal for it, right? So it's a full service. It's API first, but it, of course, comes as a nice UI. Now, what would be, of course, quite natural, and it is to also develop this UI with Micro Frontends. And actually, it is. It's highly modular, and that's because, yeah, we have a variety of solutions out there. And like a Pro edition, for instance, or of course now the Cloud edition that you can see, but also some other variations, right? And maybe also some personalized for some customer with special needs. But also for other reasons, it of course made sense to have this modular, not only in the backend, but also in the front end. And actually what it is the front end is fully Micro Frontend based, and you can see there are many Micro Frontends in there. So all these things, so the whole list, right? And I'm not sure how many those are. We should maybe write this, how many Micro Frontends you have. All these Micro Frontends, they are here together, and they are making this experience here. And of course, it's powered by Pyro. I don't need to say that, but yeah, in all, you didn't know what powers that and how it can handle so many Micro Frontends and have the composition done just so smoothly. Well, that's Pyro. But the thing is that it allows me now to extend it. So if for whatever reason I want to say this thing, in the wintertime it should snow, I can now do that. Now, how? First thing is I need muzzle work. I need to develop a Micro Frontend. So this is what we now want to do. We want to let it's snow here. And that's, by the way, our dev or staged version. That's not the production version that you get, but we will also develop this in a second. Okay, so I start in a snow pilot. This is code I've already written years ago. What does the license say? 2023. So outdated. But as far as I tried before, it should still work. So I started and it's running. Now, when I run this, I want to open it. I think I already opened it. Yeah. It starts, and there's a shell. So it's an application where I can now see this Micro Frontend working. It used our demo, right? So this is the same shell that's used here. It's a publicly available package. I'm not sure why it takes so long, but yeah, here's a publicly available package. So you can also always use it. It's just called sample Pyro. So it's a dummy shell. But as you know, these pilots, they are fully portable, right? And if they are not so portable, that depends on you. Are there constraints in there? Are making assumptions? Here, there are no assumptions. I don't even pass in a pilot API. I just say start snowflakes. And then I have a tear down function, because if this thing is disabled, I want to let it stop again, which should have some nice effect. Maybe let's look at the Pyro Inspector, which is a browser extension. So it shows me that we have Snow Pilot. And if I do this, there's nothing, right? And if I do that again, it starts snowing again. So when I disable it, it of course removes the Micro Frontend. And if it removes the Micro Frontend, the teardown is being called. That's why we don't see this anymore if it works. Maybe it just worked once, right? Aha. Anyway, cool. But I think it's actually, this is the full removal, and this is just a one-time thing. So let's see. But anyway, now we fully removed it. But you get the idea, right? So the teardown is quite important, because teardown is called when we fully remove it. Otherwise, it doesn't disappear. At least the way that we do it here, because we have, well, this is just all done on the document object model. Again, it may be not the best code, but it does its job, and it generates these snowflakes, right? So that's all it does. I'm not sure if I need to tell more about this code because again, it's rather uninteresting code, just a little bit of random functions and fluctuations to generate what looks like these snowflakes. Now, what I can do with this though is I can ship it. So now I could just say, is there a command for this already? I don't think so. Well, we have a command, but it uses some environment flags. I would just say, let's do the following. Let's say npm pilot publish. Let's use the fresh flag. It does a fresh build if this flag is used. Then we need to give it a URL. And as a URL, I want to now add it to those micro frontends. So I can just, in this feed here, can just copy this URL. And then I don't need an API key because I can tell it the interactive flag, and that should allow me to just log in. And as you saw, I should be capable, because I can access it, to publish something to this feed. So let's try this. That looks good. I'm here. I log in. I'm logged in this other container. So now it says successfully authorized. Now let's see. Let me look at... it said published successfully, so this is good. And we already get a notification here, and what you can see is that the snow pilot already landed in our feed. It didn't land for the user yet, because users only get the new micro frontends, of course, when they refresh. So what I can do now is I refresh. And now it snows. Isn't it crazy? And it's really cool, right? So I just extended this application with one deployment, and I can, of course, quite easily get rid of that and just say no, disable. So now the next time a user comes, it doesn't snow anymore. So problem solved. But maybe I want to have, let's say, this thing enabled, but I want to only be active in a certain time span. So I could make now a time-based rule where I say only active during Christmas or during winter time, during winter vacation maybe, something like this. And then I say not before, and I give it maybe 23rd of December. The point in time here doesn't really matter, but that's maybe, I don't know, do this. Should have maybe just typed it in, right? Like this. Great. And not after, and then maybe this should be already in January 16th. Time doesn't really matter. And I save this. And now the snow pilot is still not there, but it will only be active when this time span is hit, right? So we won't see it. That's the problem always with time-based rules. So I can now go, it's not there. But again, I could now delete the rule, and you get the idea. And this is what you can do. This is quite nice in my opinion, because it allows you to, have also micro frontends that, I don't know, at the moment there is, at least here in Germany, as McDonald's monopoly. And what that is that there's a special, let's say, prices at McDonald's. So they have always in this winter period, the raffles and so going on. So what they could do, of course, is on their homepage always activate that when they know already the time span, and that no one needs to stay awake and then, I don't know, redeploy the website at their state, but they just deploy, of course, the, I don't know, Monopoly micro frontend, and now suddenly all the micro frontend functionality is also visible for users that come on a certain day. So this is quite nice, and this allows you also to be in sync with certain aspects. So rules are something that come, of course, with a good micro frontend discovery service for free. The other thing that might come is things like rollbacks. You can always do that. So just as an example here, what you can see is if you go somewhere in, like the pilot account, you can see all the versions that are currently stored. Now, on this special service here, which again is a staging system, we have a retention activated, which means we don't store all the versions that are there. We only keep the last versions. So this is something you can configure for your feeds in your Pirate feed service. And it's quite nice because it then cleans up things that you don't need anymore. Usually you should still be able to get back older things, right? Because you should still have the code and I don't know, a Git tag or something. So that isn't the problem. But of course, having it in there is quite nice because you can instantly roll back and just set the current flag to some desired version. This way, be a little bit more flexible, not only how you compose your application with what Micro Frontends, but also in what version you use these different features that you include. Great. I think that's it what I had planned for today. Are there any questions, anything that you would like to see, anything that I should maybe develop from scratch? Maybe one last thing, because again, I mentioned it in this meetup, so we will keep doing the Micro Frontend meetups next year, but of course, we would love to have you participate in one way or the other. So please tell us how we should, let's say, continue this format. That would be really great. And the other thing is that I also want to give you a little bit of an outlook, what will happen next year. So it is at this point quite unclear if there will be a Micro Frontends conference. I know we did that, it was actually fairly successful, that was good. Looking at, let's say, the numbers, we are not quite sure if we should continue this format. There will be, however, something that potentially replaces it, but again, not yet sure if it's done. But if it is not done, I'm 100% sure we'll have something similar in place. And it will be again mid of the year. The other thing is, of course, that development continues. As mentioned, we have Picard.js, so this we'll see a 1.0 quite soon. And we also have Pipeblazer Server, which I didn't talk about today, but this is getting also more interesting each week. And there will be a lot more effort in the coming weeks and months for it. And overall, we still have Pyro version 2, so this is also coming, and we are quite close to having a public beta now. Keep watching for that. I think it will be quite awesome because, I can't wait to get feedback on this one. It seems really lovely. And if you think Picard is great, then potentially you will love Pyro. But yeah, again, they are not exclusive to each other. Pyro is based on Picard, but yeah, Picard you can use to create your own kind of frameworks that cross bridges and allow you to use native federation, modification, whatever. So quite a nice basis for any of those. All right. That being said, I would call it a day if there are no more questions in the chat. Thanks everyone for the great year, for participating. You're wonderful, and hope to see you all next year again. If you're celebrating Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas. Otherwise, I wish you a nice end of the year time, relaxing time with your family. And again, if you have any questions, if you want to be on the show, always just write me. Happy to be in constant exchange with you. See you all and have a great day, great evening, wherever you may roam. Bye.